I built a Super Smash Bros. Clone using the Godot game engine in under 6 hours with no game development experience. And today I will be showing you how I used AI to make this happen step by step. By the end of the video, you will know how to connect Claude Code and Google's Antigravity to the Godot game engine using the MCP. You will also know how to use AI to get 2D animated characters, music, and sound effects into your game. I'll be going as far as asking AI to connect my Xbox remote control to the game engine so I can play my new game. I started off by asking Gemini to create the initial prompt that we will give the AIs to build the game. I said, I am building a Super Smash Bros. Clone, and I want you to describe characters for me that will closely resemble the ones in the original game. I also need you to list out all the animations for each character that I will need to create to use inside the game. Furthermore, I need you to give me a description of everything I will need regarding game mechanics to ensure I create the best game experience for this Super Smash Bros. Spin-off for my personal use. I have to make sure I add that last part because, you know, I don't want to get sued by Nintendo. Gemini ended up cooking harder than your grandma on my Thanksgiving dinner. It provided me with a chef's kiss prompt, which is definitely too long for me to read in this video, but I'll drop it in my Discord if anybody wants to get a taste. I then asked Gemini to describe each character for me so that I could generate the 2D art for each of them. Gemini gave us descriptions for the handyman, the behemoth, the adventurer, the cyber bounty hunter, the slime, the space pilot, the electric familiar, and the dragon. Using these descriptions, we generated the 2D art for the characters using Sprite Sheets AI.com, which is a tool I created for ready-to-go animation sprite sheets. This saved me a stupid amount of time. I'll leave the link in the description if you want to check it out. Once I finished generating our characters, I decided that instead of creating all the sprite sheets at this point, I would simply remove the background and use the static PNG images as placeholders so that the AIs could start with the game mechanics first before getting into the weeds of animating the characters. Now that I had a big brain PRD and my Temu characters generated, it was time to connect Claude Code and Antigravity to the Godot MCP. If you've never connected this MCP before, it can be pretty frustrating. I found myself searching documentation and asking AI how to do it, but couldn't really get any clear instructions. Or maybe I'm just dumb, I don't know. But eventually I found out how to do it, and I can explain it here in a way that might make it simple for anyone watching this who might be having the same issue. First, clone the repository and build the MCP server. Run this command in your terminal. Git clone, the GitHub URL. Then cd into the Godot-MCP directory you just created. Next, run this command, npm install. And lastly, run npm run build. Now the Godot MCP server is ready for you to use on your laptop. But how do we connect to it? This is where I got stuck. First, I tried to connect Antigravity, and I struggled to the point where my screen recording got so long that the video file was unable to save to my laptop. So after several failed attempts, I decided to just copy and paste the GitHub URL into Antigravity and hope Gemini would be able to figure it out. Gemini made some changes on its own, but then I got another error, something about node path not found. So I fed Gemini the error. Gemini attempted to fix it again by changing the command to the absolute path. With that change, it finally worked. I ran into a similar issue with Claude, and it took me a while to figure that one out because I had to set it up in a slightly different manner. What I learned is that when you want to connect either Antigravity or Claude Code to the Godot MCP, you want to make sure that the args are pointing to wherever you built the Godot MCP index.js file, which in my case is located using this path. And for command, you want to set it to your absolute path, which in my case, Antigravity set as this file path. For Claude, I had to use this command in my project file. Claude MCP add Godot -- scope project -- node and this file path. The biggest takeaway that I learned is that you have to make sure you create these for every new project. Otherwise, the AI won't be able to make a connection to the Godot MCP. It took me a lot of trial and error to get this right, so I hope this helps anyone out there struggling with this as well. If this helped, consider subscribing so I can stop feeling self-conscious about my small subscriber count in the creator's locker room. Now that the Godot MCP is connected, it was time to see who could create the best Super Smash Bros. Clone between Google's Antigravity and Claude Code. I started with Antigravity. I added our static character PNG files into the project, and I pasted the big brain master prompt into Antigravity for Gemini to start cooking. On the first attempt, we got an error. Something about a parent class not being defined. Gemini should be able to debug using the Godot MCP tool, so I asked it to test and debug, and to make sure to use the sprite characters we provided for it. On the second attempt, I could see my gorilla character, but it didn't look right, so I took a screenshot. Antigravity shut down on me, and I had to open the project up again. I then attached my screenshot and told it to fix and adjust everything it needed to adjust after reviewing the screenshot and project files. Gemini gave me a plan because I forgot to take it off of plan mode. I told it to proceed and also reminded it to add the other characters and fix their sizes as well. The game then opened correctly, but I was unable to move anything. The characters were stuck in place. I prompted Gemini again, telling it what was happening and told it to fix it. Gemini added logs to test if the control inputs were working. I told Gemini I could see the logs for the actions being processed, but the actual gameplay was static and the players were still not moving. Gemini finished and swore that it had identified the issue and that I should be able to use it now. I tested it and confirmed that Gemini was trolling me. At this point, I was getting pretty tired of staring at two gorillas doing nothing, like I was on a zoo trip with my family that I got dragged into. I told Gemini, whatever you're doing is not working. Nothing is happening. The character sprites are just sitting in place. Gemini finished again, and I was unsatisfied and annoyed at the poor performance. The game still didn't work, and I had given up all hope on Antigravity being able to do the job. The good news is that I knew Claude code would not disappoint. I called Antigravity in Uber home and hit up my main, Claude Code Opus 4.6. I didn't even give Claude time to warm up. I just opened it up and gave it all the same information raw. Claude reviewed the master prompt that I got from Gemini at first, and it essentially said, nah, hold my beer. It gave me an even more detailed plan. It even said, here is Claude's plan. I respect the confidence. I approved the plan and I let Claude cook. Claude finished, and right off the bat, I could tell this was better. We got a nice little start screen with a character selection menu. I started the game and the same issue. Nothing was moving. Plus, I wasn't seeing my other characters. For some reason, both AIs had decided to only include the gorilla character. I communicated the issue to Claude, and after only one prompt about the issue, Claude had already made more progress than Gemini. We had both characters. Our characters were moving, and most importantly, our characters were fighting. Now that I had confirmed Claude was the real chef in the kitchen, I was inspired to go all out on this game. I asked Claude to give me the things left for us to implement. I wanted to end this with a AAA game. Claude explained the core game was done. It then gave me a list of things that could be added with the level of priority for each. The ones that stood out to me were sprite sheet animations, better HUD, sound effects, and stage music. And so I got to work on this so that Claude could string it all together for me. For the sprite sheet animations, I already had the characters, but I needed to animate them. So I asked Claude for a list of animations per character so I could generate them using the Sprite Sheets AI tool. Claude gave me an extremely long and detailed list of animations for each character, totaling over 384 animations. I have to be honest, I love you guys, but I was not about to animate 384 different animations. That alone would take me a few days, even with the bulk processing on the Sprite Sheets AI tool. So I asked Claude for a new, shorter list of 10 global animations that I could use across all characters. I decided to go with 6 of the 10 animations and started by generating 3 of the 6 animations per character to test them. We got the idle animation, for which I copied the description Claude generated. I went over to the Sprite Sheets AI website, uploaded the images we generated earlier from my inventory, selected all the characters, and pasted the animation prompt provided to us by Claude. I clicked on lock perspective for our characters and then clicked animate. Okay, now we had our idle animation for all our characters. In the next step, you can specify exactly which frames you want to select from the sprite sheet if you want to fine-tune your animation loop. I did this for all animations. After they were ready, I actually set the program up to download the sprite sheet animations in a zip file, properly labeled and organized into their own folders. Perfect for me to just drop into the project file, ready to use. I tested it out with the first 3 animations to make sure Claude could actually do it. I told it to review the files and adjust all the code that needed to be adjusted for this to work. Claude got to cooking and it worked flawlessly. Now it was time for me to add all the finishing touches. I entered 3 new animations to complete the necessary animations for the game, which were attack, hit, and knocked out. I searched Google for background images and got one for the player selector, which I had to modify using Gemini Nano Banana. I also had Gemini generate a background for the gameplay. I noticed that the KO animations were not working like the actual Super Smash Bros. So I asked Claude to fix the KO visual effects and add all characters into the battle gameplay. At this point, I was still not fully finished, but I needed to make sure nothing was broken and that our UI actually looked good. So I ran a quick test, and this is how it was looking so far. The character selection screen looked good. Our battle board had an awesome background, and all the characters were actually in the game fighting each other. Now this was feeling more like Super Smash Bros, but I wasn't satisfied. I needed to take it a step further so that I could call this an actual Super Smash Bros clone. First, I told it to make the game full screen so I wouldn't have to keep squinting my eyes to try and see this microscopic game. I also told it to fix the game mechanics so that the characters were actually sent flying like in the real game. The full screen mode was fixed, but the KO issue was not. I decided that maybe I was the problem. Maybe I wasn't instructing Claude correctly. So I decided to go to Gemini and asked it to explain the mechanics and visuals for when players get sent flying in the Super Smash Bros. Game. Gemini explained this to me as thoroughly as possible. I decided I wasn't going to read the whole thing, and I just copied and pasted it into Claude. I told Claude to make our game use similar mechanics and visuals. I know what you're thinking. JC, you're a genius. What could possibly go wrong? Claude listed all the things that changed. I opened the game and it looked like this. Some particle effects were getting stuck on the screen, and I wasn't sure how many other things were actually working. It seemed like Claude had also increased the movement sensitivity of our characters instead of decreasing it. So I just told Claude what I saw and asked it to fix it again. I tested it again and it was much better. Still not perfect, but almost there. We just had to add the final touches for it to be a true AAA game. I got the new Grok 420 involved. I told it to list all the audio I needed for the game, including the character selection and the battle scene. Grok cooked and Grok delivered. But just like before, I decided to go only with some of the essentials. So I opened up ElevenLabs and just copied and pasted every one of the sound effects that I thought was most essential for both the selection screen and the fighting scene. We got sound effects for the announcer, the crowd cheering, the cursor movement and selector, the character battle spawn, and of course, the actual combat sounds along with background music. I wanted to get the full gaming experience, so I also prompted Claude to help me connect my Xbox controller to Godot. I'll be honest, I didn't even know if this was possible when I asked it to do it, but I figured a game engine should be able to have an Xbox controller connect to it. Claude did something in the game engine for the characters to take the input from the controller, and then told me what I needed to do was set my Xbox controller to pairing mode, go to my Bluetooth devices, and look under nearby devices. It actually took like 5 minutes to show up on my Bluetooth devices for some reason, but it did eventually. Good thing I was patient with that. So now that I had the audio and my controller ready to play, there was only one last thing left for me to do before I tested the final version. I had to enter myself into the game. I don't know why, but it was something I decided was essential for this game. So I grabbed my profile picture, entered it into the Sprite Sheets AI tool, turned myself into a pixel character, and told Claude I was ready for the Matrix. And here is the final result of the game that took me 6 hours over the course of 3 nights to build from scratch. Enjoy, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this.
Ready? 3, 2, 1, go!